Elemental resistances are capped by your highest maximum elemental resistance instead. This is the line on the new unique jewel melding of the flesh, along with a hefty downside of minus 76% to all elemental resistances, which may or may not be a downside as we move on further. So what does this mean? Well, here's an example character. Let's say that I have 185 fire res, 161 cold resist, and 170 lightning resist, all my gear in total. And right now, let's say I'm running like Rise of the Phoenix and Purity of Fire, so I have like 85 maximum fire resist, and 76 cold and 76 maximum lightning resist. Because maybe I have +1 max res on the tree or something, right? So again, this is without the jewel. These are my current stats, right? So with the jewel, now I have minus 76% to all elemental resistance. So, all my resist, it goes down, right? That makes sense. Fire is down to 109, cold 85, lightning 94. Good stuff so far. So, elemental resistances are capped by your highest maximum ele res. So my highest maximum ele res is fire, which was at 85. So now that means my cold and my lightning, their caps are now also 85. However, what's really important to consider here is that I still need to get the cold resist and lightning resist on gear or tree or wherever I get it, so I can actually hit that 85 cap, right? Even though their caps are 76 without the jewel. So for example, if I just lower this to let's say I'm at 100 resist, without the jewel I'm perfectly fine, right? But with this jewel I'm not at 24 cold resist, so that's gonna be a tough time, right? My characters, you're probably gonna get destroyed by cold damage then, right? So you gotta be a bit careful in this scenario. However, there are also ways around this, because maybe you just maybe you want to be at minus 200 res, right? For whatever reason, maybe that's a thing. We'll talk about that in a moment. Anyways, let's move on. So how good is maximum resist? Well, I'll get to that in a moment. So this is a little bit of table here. It's a short table here of maximum resist from 75 to 90 with the damage taken. This is for a 10,000 damage hit, which is very normal for endgame spells. They honestly go a little bit higher. If you guys look at Uber Zero numbers, for example, they get really high. So with 75% maximum res, you take 2,500 damage. With 90% max res, you take 1,000 damage, right? And we have a percent difference here, essentially comparing the damage taken between each sequential hit here. As you can see, it gets a little bit better and better the more maximum resist you get. Then we have a couple tables for, compared to 75 res and 80 res and 85 res. But the TLDR here is that maximum resist is really good because you take a lot less damage, right? It's just really good. Just trust me on this one. I did the math. So general use strategies, well, if you're just stacking max res, right? Righteous Fire, that's probably the first idea that came to everyone here, right? It's, Rise the Phoenix, get the 90 max fire res, now you got 90 to all the other resists, Yeah, you play Chieftain, you get 100 fire resist, 110, I believe, actually, from the Ascendancy, along with some fizz to fire conversion, if I'm not mistaken. So that allows you to get pretty tanky as well. You can go cold res stacking with Aegis Aurora, that's not a bad idea as well. Honorable mention here is also Aura bots, right? Maybe as I do Aura bots, they do run the purities to kind of cap all the res, but maybe they only need to run one purity now and they get the other missing resist from somewhere else, right? So it's something to think about. There's some cool ideas there. Any build that runs purity of elements, that's going to be really strong now, right? Purity of elements, it really helps against that downside, right? Because the downside is it's minus 76% to all elemental resist. Purity of elements has all res, so it's good stuff. And again, builds with easy access to additional resist suffixes, for example, gear or jewels or resist on the tree. Those are generally going to be able to mitigate the downside quite easily. Other ways to mitigate the downside are resist flasks, right? Any mage blooders, you can equip a mage blood, or you can just press your flask. You got your ruby flask for any resist flask for that matter. You get 55 res. Again, you can all these can all be buffed by flask effect, including these flask effect suffixes here from 2124 on the T1 mod, or pardon me, the lowest mod, and then we get all the way up to T1. You get 37 to 40%. Again, this can all be buffed by flask effect. A couple honorable unique items that I want to mention here. We have Malchai's Artifice. A lot of resist anyways, and this minus res also, it can be pretty important, which I will get to in a moment. And we have Circle the Fear. So I mentioned this here because, hey, you can get a little bit maximum resist here, which is not bad. It really helps you get to that 90 potential here. 90% maximum resist potential, along with, hey, maybe you get a resist mod as well. Although normally you're going to just try to get the resist from other items, and you will go for a damage mod or mana reservation efficiency mod or what have you. Maybe going for Herald of Agony version or Herald of Purity version, whatever you want to play. So I was looking at rare jewelry. I was like, okay, how much is this going to get in a rare, rare jewelry or rare gear? Well, you can get pretty much 170, 190 plus. Rings, they obviously of course go a bit higher because you can get the resistance catalyst going. 20% multiplier is pretty big, but hey, you can still get quite a bit on two-tone boots and astral plates and stuff. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. So I was talking about minus lightning resist earlier, and just minus resist in general. So yeah, Doryani's prototype, it's pretty good, you know. There's a limited availability of minus lightning resist modifiers now without Scourge League, right? So this is a very easy way to get the minus lightning res. And yeah, you know, this is why like we got stuff like Malchai's Artifice too, right? I actually don't know what type of rings that build normally wears, but you know, those rings are also an option to combine with this, right? And then speaking of another thing that might synergize well and just reminds me directly of Doryani's prototype is the Transcendence Keystone, right? Armor applies to fire, cold, and lightning damage taken from hits instead of physical damage, and you have minus 15% to all maximum elemental resistances. Well, that's a pretty hefty downside, but now you only need to max 1 resist instead of 3, which is essentially the same thing as a jewel, so it's pretty high synergy here. Get really tanky this way, especially if you just go and do some crazy armor stacking now, right? And then the last item I want to mention here is the Nebulous, particularly the Replica Nebulous. That looks like a lot of damage to me. And I don't know, I like doing a lot of damage. I mean, who doesn't like doing a lot of damage? Nebulous is also, you know, it's a worthy mention here, but Replica Nebulous, you know, it takes the prize. It takes the prize here, if you ask me. Anyways, that is Melding of the Flesh. If you think I missed something, or you think there's like some cool, crazy tactics that you know, I haven't thought of, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, that's it for me. See you guys later. Peace.